Okay, today we're going to make a connection between ancient Cairo and the symbol Cairo and Saturn worship, even some about Christmas, the Bible, ancient Greeks, and connectives. All of this done basically through folklore, astrotheology, mythology, and what ancient researchers had found, mainly between the 17th, 18th century into the 19th, some here, but some much, much older. And it makes you wonder, how long ago did people normally think this and have this in their regimen that was once lost? This is one statement here by Thought Signs, The Semantics of Symbols by Carl G. Liegman on page 157. He says the diagonal cross is sometimes used as a symbol for Christ, whose name in Greek begins with the Greek letter X, kind of like in Christmas, whenever you say Xmas. We still utilize some of this today. It also stands for the number 1000 in ancient Greece, and even represented Kronos, the god of time, the planet Saturn, and therefore the god Saturn in Roman mythology too. So we're going to go through a few connections here and make that connection between Christ and many other players who were long ago almost lost. Here is the symbol we're talking about. The Cairo monogram, known as XP pretty much crossed over, in English is also pre-Christian and could not be entirely overlooked, nor Little and Scott's statement that it stood for Kronos. Kronos was the Greek name of Saturn, who was only another aspect of Tammuz. Now, we've talked about Tammuz and its ancient Sumerian connections of a resurrecting god. In fact, his rituals had to do with a sacred grove and a tree that was reborn, in fact, chopped down and taken and decorated interiorly. Now, we've got a few videos about Tammuz and his connections to Christmas and its rites, but it goes much deeper. Under Money Smiths give some example of the pre-Christian T, as in Tammuz, and XP, without, however, connecting them with Tammuz. Neither are we told that in Egypt the Cairo was the monogram of Osiris, as the sun was called at Abydos, and was also a sign of Jupiter, Ammon, who as well as Kronos was also the sun, and by in turn the black hole sun. Sanchuniathon actually says the Phoenicians supposed the sun to be the only god, calling him Baal Samin, which name among them signifies Lord of Heaven, but among the Greeks, Zeus or Jupiter. So we see Cairo in Egypt. Have you ever heard of the expression or the word Cairo having been expressed in ancient Egypt? Perhaps you have. Also, we're talking about these people that were more down near the Mediterranean that we've done other videos about recently. And by knowing what we know now, this easierly makes a connection. But it also goes to way back in the origins and Osiris, as you see here. So, this symbol here, which you can see also makes other symbols, by the way, and can be hidden inside them. The letter Chi was also used by the Greeks as a solar symbol and was connected to Saturn as the abbreviation of his name, Kronos, as was the wheel-shaped sign formed by the first two letters combined, the so-called Cairo symbol we were looking at. Both abbreviations were adopted by the Christians as the initials of Christ, and if you'll look, the spelling is starting the same, and are still in use today, the Chi appearing in some of our shorthand words for Christmas, Xmas. The bind letters are monogram. Cairo became one of the most prominent of the Christian symbols and can still be seen in almost any Roman Catholic church today. So these symbols go back far, but I'm telling you the reason that they had it in a few different cultures and it all came out to be the same was not just from connection still, but from a time before. Like before 10,000 BC, and a common connection that can still be seen today with these people. But let's peel another layer off this onion here. For if we look, we had a minute ago that star that we all know so well, but we also here see a 3D representation of a box or a cube, and we know through astrotheology this of course connects up to the sun, and if you look in this symbology here, he's basically in the center of the zodiac as it goes around, this god of time. The North African or Egyptian Saturn, Baal was the national god of the Libo-Phoenicians, and we know that the cult of the sun was particularly strong in Syria also. An inscription from Tabna in Algeria dedicated to Sol Invictus has its first letter a single X, which Mjanon identified as either a solar symbol or the abbreviation of Kronos, that is Saturn. It is overlooked fact that the Chi stands for Kronos as well as for Christ, as does for the matter of Cairo. The point is that with the close association of Saturnus Ion and Sol, the sun, this X could well have been both a solar symbol and an abbreviation for Kronos, as the Chi would have represented Kronos, the large and imperiously drawn single S in the Pompeian graffito would have stood for Saturnus or even Sol. It was not an abbreviation for Salutim, as has also been thought up now and said now. The Sator god, Saturnus Ion, could very well have been Paternoster, for his symbol was the solar cross, either as an X or a plus sign. Paternoster, this goes back to Proto-Indo-European symbology, and here we have again the zodiac and the four cardinal points, and this connective, which is a wheel, but it is also a compass, and the declamation of time as the faces of your watch. Watch will go deeper. The following are the monograms of Osiris, which, if you'll see, looks like that P with the cross across it, or an actual cross standing under a P. They are also the monograms of Jupiter Ammon. This character is to be seen upon one of the coins of Decius, the great persecutor of the Christians of the day, with this word upon it. You see there, BA, that same symbol, ATO, this word in the same manner is found on the staffs of Isis and Osiris. And this is symbology from the Celtic Druids. So now we're making more connections. Jupiter, Baal, and so on. Let's take it to another level. For here's that coin symbology that you see, and the writing on it. The cross of Constantine was nothing more than this symbol, the monogram of Osiris, and afterwards of Christ. This was in a book, Bible Myths, and there are parables in other religions. So people have been making these connections for a long time, and you can see this Osiris symbol, and you go, well, where is it? And you go, he is that symbol. Not only do they have this other symbol and situation goes on, he is that symbol. And it comes from an idea in the pre-dynastic. Sab, as in Sabbath, or Seb, was the name of the Egyptian Saturn, the father of Osiris and Isis. So now we make another connection. Seb, as in Sebastian, but Sabbath and Saturday. And it was the ancient Sabbath of these people we're trying to talk about. Saturday. In fact, it's deified in the days and names of the week. Pardon me. They say that Osiris was begotten by Helios, the sun, which I take to be the sun of the spring equinox, by Hermes, Isis, by Saturn, Typhon, and Neptunes. Saturn is Seb, and I find reason for placing him at the autumn equinox, diametrically opposite to Osiris, balancing that wheel and having it go round and round. This was in the Westminster Review. So now we see a symbology looking here, and how the sun and its path goes across the ecliptic. And now we can see these symbols in the bottom left-hand corner and how they all connect to the axis mundi and the way that it all works. In the inscription of Hermapion's obelisk, the sun is called the great god and Lord of heaven, Lord of time, Horus, Lord of light, all which appellations belong to Osiris, as Saturn, Kronos, or Lunas, and Sol. Osiris is the Persian Mithra, who formerly reigned at Heliopolis. Aha! Keep getting these connections of these ancient researchers who have gone deep down the rabbit holes and realized the connections that I've been showing you now for years. Osiris, in my understanding, was not a king, but the planet Saturn, Kronos of the Greeks, which was the king of all and said to have spawned all, Tammuz of the Babylonians. This was in an ancient book called Mankind in Amnesia. That expression also keeps showing up. Like Saturn in Phoenicia, Osiris in Egypt is represented with many eyes, and Mithra has 1,000 eyes. Osiris, like Saturn, is connected with the color black, but also the color green of rebirth, and that connects it all to it. But yeah, the darkening of the Nile silt and the connections that it goes there, that deep Vanta black. The Babylonian Bel, Mithra, was Baal, or Bel, and also Saturn, Kronos, and Sol. Same guy makes these connections here. The original form of the Arabian, Phoenician, Egyptian, and Grecian worship was that of sun worship. Last year around Easter, I made a series of videos about sun worship and so on, and connections to how you can see that these old people that developed a 12 cycle of gods, and 5 and 7, which is 12, connected towards the zodiac and all of this. But before, they were all primarily sun worshippers. In fact, were primarily till it gets dichotomied around and switched and pulled apart. And of course, Egypt doesn't seem to show a storm god as prominent because they don't live off of the fact of the sun, or I'm sorry, the storms. And in fact, their season runs differently, for the Nile runs off of the equatorial relapse of the sun going through winter there, and summer north, while it's winter in south backwards. We've talked about this before. It's more of an autumn situation. But Keranos, which is part of the etymology that makes up Chronos. Now, Keranos has also to do with coronas and corona, which has to do with the sun, and the etymology of the Proto-Indo-European linguistics that bring about this. But also in ancient Hebrew, Karen, spelled like Karen, means horns. Even Moses, whenever he met this god, said that he developed horns. It says that he developed Karen, and everybody goes, no, that means light that goes out of his head and everything. And they're trying to make this connection that they're not even supposed to make. Chronos. Sada, or Saturn. El, the god of the Phoenicians, is Saturn. Sol also, though. It's all an aspect of the same thing. Understand that the sun is the center of everything and makes it all work. He's the big god. How long did they know about all this? Oh, they had a lot of it. Asar, which is symbolized by fire. Asariel is Saturn. Well, hold on. That's in the Bible, Azrael, and and we've talked about Asar. I did a video about Asar and its connection to people who used that linguist and connectors. But then Asar, A-U-S-A-R, what is that? That is the undying sun, A-U meaning sun, or golden. We use that symbology in elements. Osiris, Sol, Saturn, and the Hebrew El, Theos, God, the Greek Zeus, sun, Theos, the Hebrew Dionysus. Oh yeah, that's a connective. It's Dio of the river Nisus. Yeah, that's connected into it, but that's Dionysus. We've done a whole video about that connection. But then also Baal, Iak, as in Isaac, or Iako, Greek Iakos, where they put the OS on the end of it, or Io, Habal, Apollyon. So now we see that there's a connection, and there are words that are still used today to designate this same situation. And in that, we can find names like Cairo. That's an ancient symbol of Saturn. Just like Saturday. And I swear there's an Egyptian connection to Cairo. I know. Yeah, that sounds sarcastic, but it does so for a reason. Like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy. Onward. Peace.